Right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the York and North Yorkshire Combined Authority Audit and Governance Committee meeting. First of all, are there any apologies for absence?
Not aware of any, Chair.
No, okay. In terms of introductions, since the last meeting of the committee, an independent member, Dr. Stuart Green, has been appointed. He will be a non-voting member of the committee. He is the existing, or has been the chair of the IAC committee, and also a member of the JIAC. So he will bring a lot of knowledge of both the existing police and fire responsibilities that are now also part of the combined authority. So that's, I think, a very welcome appointment. There has also been, in the meantime, an independent member appointed, who is Susan Giles, and that is in regard to the standard side. She's unable to attend today, but will receive a standing invite to future audit and governance meetings. As indicated, the meeting today is being recorded and broadcast live on YouTube. The microphones are placed around the room to pick up the audio, so please do speak clearly. Right, minutes of the meeting held on the 14th of January. Is everyone happy that they are a correct record? I'd perhaps just like to raise one thing myself. On the final page of the minutes, minute AG 2433, it was resolved that the programme of work taking into account the topics put forward be noted. I think it would probably be more appropriate to record that as be agreed, and additionally taking into account the topics that were put forward. So we'll pick up hopefully some of the issues Councillor Walters raised. Is that agreeable as an amendment? Yeah. Yep. Thank you very much. So those minutes are approved. Declarations of interest. Does anyone have any interests previously recorded to declare? No? Okay, excellent. Public participation. We have no registered speakers.
That's correct.
Yes. So we will move on then to the item 5, the financial statements. And Mike Russell, our Section 73 officer, is going to lead on that.
Thanks, Chair. So the financial statements are at item 5 on your pack, pages 11 to 60. I won't take you through the paper in detail because it's fairly self-explanatory in terms of its contents. It presents the final financial statements for the period to 31st of March 2024. Note that it does reflect some adjustments from the drafts that were presented to the Audit and Governance Committee in January. Those adjustments are those summarised in the Auditor's Combined Strategy and Completion Report, which we will discuss at item 6 of the agenda. And there is a change to the annual governance statement to approve, which includes an assessment of effectiveness of the controls that operated through the review period, as that is a requirement of the guidance around the presentation of annual governance statements. The next steps will be to finalise the accounts and for the auditors to sign the accounts before the 28th of February. At that point, I'll open that up to any questions.
Not seeing any hands. Okay. Shall we agree to the recommendations to note the content of the report and to approve the addition to the authority's annual governance statement presented at paragraph 5.2 of this report? Close it. Yeah. Okay, it's moved. Seconded. I assume that was a seconding rather than wanting to speak. Thank you. Right. All those in favour? Okay, thank you. That is agreed. So we'll move on then to item 6, the York and North Yorkshire Combined Authority 2023-24 Combined Audit Strategy and Completion Report. This is the report of the external auditors, Orvis Mazars, and it will be presented by Mark Outerside and Ellie Horsley.
Thank you, Chair. This is our audit strategy and completion report for the year ending 31st of March 2024. I'll take the report as read and just highlight the key messages for you this morning. Ordinarily, we'd present a separate audit strategy memo at the beginning of the audit, and we'd issue an audit completion report at the end. But as previously stated, this has been backstopped, so the report has been combined. Section 1 of the report provides a summary of the implications of backstopping an audit. Section 3 sets out the work that we've undertaken, and Section 5 provides an update on the findings from our backstop procedures. Section 6 provides an update on our VFM commentary work. As you can see, we've highlighted 3 significant weaknesses in the authority's arrangements, and these were as at the 31st of March 2024, which we intend to include in our auditor's annual report, which will be issued upon the completion of this audit. The weaknesses that we've highlighted relate to medium-term financial performance arrangements, risk and performance management arrangements, and arrangements to produce financial statements. The appendices in our report are the draft management representation letter that we'd like you to sign and the audit opinion that we will issue on completion. So I don't propose to say any more other than to ask if you've got any questions.
Okay. Questions to Mark? This is obviously not reading for us. Morning. Sorry. Traffic. Mark, obviously there was only a 2-month period involved in these accounts. And the authority was being set up in that period. So how unreasonable a risk do you think we have from the weaknesses that you have identified?
I think they were at a point in time, so they're reflective as of the 31st of March 2024. And I think the comments that Mike's added to the report, when we've offered that commentary, probably describes how things have progressed since then and the trajectory that you are moving in at the moment to get things put on track. That was a very caveated auditor response, wasn't it?
Yes, okay. Mike, would you like to respond to both what Mark's just said, but also obviously the issues and the 3 weaknesses that have been raised?
Yeah, I think that there's 2 aspects to your question, Chair. There's firstly, as you pointed out, the financial statements cover a 2-month period, which was a set period for the authority, and the activity which was undertaken by the authority, other than receiving some funding that was largely not deployed in the time, was continuation of existing activity that was well designed and well controlled through the former local enterprise partnership arrangements. The large sort of settlements that came to the authority via devolution were not deployed at any point in time through that period. I think in terms of the weaknesses, they cover 3 areas. First area was medium-term financial strategy and planning. I think at the time, the production of a medium-term financial strategy needs to be based upon known forward plans and strategies. And the authority was very much in a point in time when those strategies were being developed, and indeed we're still in a phase of developing our strategies at the moment and looking at how we move those medium-term financial strategies forward. I think what I would say from a risk perspective is, and it was it'll probably be raised in other reports that come from the auditors, that the authority was well funded in advance. There was no indication of any risk to financial sustainability at that point in time. And the combined authority has recently been through its 2025-26 budgeting process. An assessment of the financial position is being made through that process, and we are still not seeing any issues in terms of financial sustainability of the organisation. We're currently working up the strategy for the medium-term financial strategy of the organisation. However, there are a number of uncertainties in the future, not least the comprehensive spending review that's due to come through from government, and largely our longer term funding settlements and future funding arrangements will be decided through that process. So as management, we are monitoring that position, and we'll develop the medium-term financial strategy as soon as we can to deliver that through. In terms of other pieces, there was some comments around resourcing of the finance team. There's been significant steps since the 31st of March around resourcing of the finance team in terms of creation of my substantive post and recruitment. We've got a dedicated accountant now through a service level agreement that came through in August, and we've also recruited a head of finance for the team as well in the general budgets area, which creates greater capacity. And following the transferring of police and fire, they hold some strong resources around the financial and accounting aspects of things, and we're currently working up the plan to produce the financial accounts for this year, utilising that resource, some resource we have in North Yorkshire Council through SLA and the enhanced internal team. So we hope to see a much better position into next year, albeit the accounts will be significantly more complex with the inclusion of police and fire. I think the final point was around risk and performance. Again, we're taking steps to address those currently. Our internal audit partners, Veritow, are currently in the middle of a review of risk management arrangements for the organisation to ensure our policies and procedures are adequate. And within our budgets for next year, we're recruiting a dedicated performance management officer who will be tasked with picking up this process. And in the interim, I'm currently talking to management in the delivery areas to make sure that we get a reasonable view of performance before those formal strategies are in place. So we're taking a lot of steps to move that forward. Acknowledge, Chair, as you mentioned at the start, this report it is not great reading for the authority, but it needs to be taken in context, and we are working through to develop the controls moving forward.
Sorry, did you mention the value for money arrangements, which was one of the points in the report? I'm not sure I saw that.
So the value for money arrangements, Mark will explain this better than myself, but as part of the audit work, they're required to report on our value for money arrangements, which are effectively the controls you would expect to see to deliver value for money. So where the auditors have identified weaknesses, they are weaknesses within those controls. It doesn't necessarily mean we have not delivered value for money in the year.
Yeah. Do you want to say anything more about the VFM?
I think Mike summed it up correctly, because the title itself, VFM, leads you to thinking that we're looking at a bottom line of something, but we're not. We're looking at the arrangements or the authority to achieve value for money, and we're commenting on the arrangements as opposed to the end point.
Right. Cliff.
These 2 months that were basically being reported on were a transitional time, and I'm quite satisfied that there was work in progress to address all of these issues, which some of them we're still working on, but I think we'll get there. Thank you.
Mark.
Thank you, Chair. In terms of value for money, then, who actually does report to us? Who actually does explain the bottom line? I think I mentioned before that I would like to see some simple representation of value for money in terms of the cost of administration of every pound that's spent. Could it be broken down in a really simple format like that, so that this committee can understand and anybody else looking in can understand?
So in the commentary there, we reference performance metrics and things like that. That would be something that those charged with governance and officers should think about and implement. And we would either say that the arrangements are in place or not. That's what we would report upon.
So, Chair, is that something we take forward? We take up going forward, because a comparison like that we could take back to the constituent local authorities, and that's a three-way simple comparison then that people can understand.
Yeah, this was raised, if you remember, at the previous meeting, and I think, if I recall correctly, we had an assurance that in the year that we're just about to finish, that we will have a greater breakdown of information in the accounts. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I think what Councillor was putting out there was more around, I think we'd agreed at the last meeting that moving forward into this year, we would look at presenting an overview of how the authority is structured and where things are moving, then to drive, as Mark mentioned, the performance management metrics. So it's not necessarily solely a statutory accounting point, I don't think. But as mentioned, we are looking to pick up those performance management metrics through our delivery plan. I think I mentioned previously as well that I sit on a forum with other directors of finance and finance leads from other combined authorities. And it is difficult, particularly as an early stage authority, to benchmark the value we get for pounds of delivery, because we are in a ramp up phase and our comparator authorities all have different responsibilities and different powers. So it's something we can bring, but probably it will need to be an iterative process with the committee if the committee wants to consider this, for it to understand what it wants to see in due course down the line. It is worth noting as well, in terms of the governance structures as set up at the moment, there are regular financial performance updates that go to the full combined authority rather than this committee, which give an indication of performance. And if the committee wanted to, those papers could come here for information as well. So it gives a wider context of what we're doing. But I think perhaps you're missing a part of that picture as well.
You've also got your monthly budget reporting and your medium-term financial plan outturn as well. So it has to be all considered in the round.
Yeah. I mean, since the last meeting, I had the opportunity to go on the LGA's course for audit and governance chairs, and certainly the issue of how we ensure that information is, comprehensive and clear and understandable by members of the public looking in from the outside. Was certainly one of the topics that was recognised as quite important. So I think it would be useful for us to come back to that. Obviously, it's our responsibility to see the arrangements are in place rather than necessarily to try and substitute for what the actual full combined authority itself is doing. But we clearly need to have arrangements where we are properly cited on it and satisfied that those arrangements are working. So I think that's one for us to come back to. Okay, thank you. Right, any other comments or questions on this report?
Sorry, Chair.
Yes, sir.
On the agenda. Where have we got to on the agenda?
Right, okay, sorry.
JD4.
Yes. We're on the Forvis Mazars report on the audit strategy and completion report.
Okay. Yes, thank you.
And did you have any things that you'd picked up beforehand that you wanted to raise?
No, I'm just let me catch up. No, fine.
Yeah. Okay. Caroline.
Chair, just briefly, we're coming almost to the end of our first full year, and certainly, the weaknesses are there because of the situation that we had. As Councillor Lund says, we were just starting out; it was a new formation. But after what effectively will be 14 months, I think we should be getting nearly there. And I need to be assured that we've got the plans in place to make sure that by the end of the first full accounting year, we're up and running and organising ourselves properly. And I think we owe that to the residents that we serve, that we are up and running after 14 months and we know what we're doing, we know where we're going, and we shouldn't have any weaknesses anymore.
Right. Councillor Lunn and myself did have some discussions at our pre-meeting with Mike. I think it would be helpful, Mike, if you would explain what's likely to be the position in terms of the current year's accounts.
Well, I think in summary, we're hoping to address all of your concerns and be in a position where we are at the level where, as you said, we're up and running by the end of this year. But there is some complexity that has made things more challenging through the year, and not least the fact that police and fire came on board in the authority, which was almost a new start in May to a certain extent. There's certainly a big challenge in terms of financial accounting and wider governance, which we're still working through. But the processes that existed previously are still in place, still operating, still providing assurance. I think so. The aspiration is to get to a point where we address the vast majority, if not all, of these recommendations, but it needs to be taken in the context of the history of the combined authority. And although we were formed on the 21st of December in 2023. Ultimately, the mayor and a lot of the senior officers were not on board until the middle of the year. So I joined end of July. Accountancy came on in August. Our director of economy actually joined in January. So we are still working to develop the operating model of the organisation. So we are endeavouring to do that. I think the majority of risks will be addressed, but there will be a journey to go on for maybe into next year to get us right to the pinnacle of best practice.
Okay.
Could I just ask a supplementary on that, Mike? You mentioned in terms of the quality of report issue that was flagged in here that there have been some difficulties with the service level agreement. Have we now got those adequately addressed?
Oh, we're working through that. So that particular point referenced was around the service level that was set up was effectively that one of our local authority partners would prepare the year-end accounts on behalf of the authority. I think with it being a new organisation, there was some lack of clarity probably on both sides of the arrangement as to who was going to manage which aspects. I think what I touched on in a previous answer was that we've invested in quite a lot more resource, and we've got access to additional resource within the fire and police inside of the organisation as well. And also we still retain access to that SLA. So we're working through exactly how the moving parts will come together, but I'm much more confident this year that we'll get the right answer because North Yorkshire can support us with the technical aspects of financial accounting for what is effectively the general budget area of the combined authority before police and fire. We have a strong resource within police and fire who previously prepared both of their sets of accounts, and that resource is going to bring together the picture from the parties to pull that together. So we've currently got a timetable. The deadline for completion of the draft statutory accounts for this year is the end of June. Previously it was the end of May, and we're hoping through our timetable the May position gives us 3 or 4 weeks to get that right. So we shouldn't be in the same position that we've been in last year, which when I arrived in July, the accounts had not even got to a point where they were drafted when the deadline was May. So.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if there are no other questions, are we happy to agree the recommendation to approve the combined audit strategy and completion report? Can I see those in favour, please? Okay, that is agreed. Thank you very much. Right, item 7 has been withdrawn and will be tabled at the next Audit and Governance Committee meeting in April. So we can move to item 8, which is the programme of work. She at the moment only actually covers up to our next meeting. We'll obviously need a new one for the following year. Next time. Right, are there any questions or comments on the programme?
Yes, one addition from the published version, which is the internal audit annual report will also be coming to the meeting.
Right, if there's no comments, we'll note that. I have no urgent business, or at least not unless someone's going to spring something on me at the last minute. No. Right, okay. The date of the next meeting is the 22nd of April, 10 a.m. start at the Thornton meeting room in the City of York Council's West Offices premises in York. Mark,
22nd or 25th. Just going on work on
Tuesday, 22nd. Right. It's April 25. I think 25 is the year on the pro. It's okay. Okay, thank you very much, and thank you for your attendance and participation, and see you at our next meeting. Thank you. Let's close the meeting. Yeah, the size is quite small. Normally, certainly not load.
That was quick. It's gone a long way for very little.
We've asked
Could have done it in teams.
Over on the train, getting here.
PowerPoint.
Well, I've had